So everybody read this?
Yeah.
Everybody read through this?
No.
I mean, why don't we go around the room and we get 60 seconds.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rob.
I'll start.
Yeah.
It's not around the room, but page 34, page 14, 10th bullet down, we need to take leaders seriously, fuel the leaders for strong industry. That's my whole 60 seconds. That's it. The whole thing came down to me for that is taking leaders seriously. Love the play on words for taking donors seriously. It's obvious. I'm trying to figure out who said that because it's obviously somebody that has been on committee and done the Taking Donors Seriously book. But the whole thing, this entire meeting for me comes down to that one line.
Okay.
Let's take leaders seriously. And the key word, fuel the leaders for strong ministry.
Okay. Can you hand me my backpack, please? Add that. Okay, so
Who else?
I think for me, and I've just been noticing this over the last couple of years. I'm late to the game, but I did 2 years now on staff associate training, and just the amount of attrition we're having in our staff, and the amount of investment we're putting into training staff, and they're just not sustaining, they're not staying in their positions, and they're leaving right after. So when we're talking about a huge campaign like this, we've got to have some stability in our staff and be able to keep the staff that we're training. And then with that comes the supervision, the mentorship, and all of the things that are part of that.
Jake.
Same thing for me. I just said this whole thing begs the question: what do you want staff people to do? Because take leaders seriously. I think the presumption in here that's staff driven. Take your lead. So, I mean, for me, there was some statistics that I think are really important that we need to know. It's like, what's the average tenure of a staff person in Arizona? That's the concern is we front load all this training and all this work, and the attrition is so I don't know what we're doing is actually working. I don't know the statistics, and we'll be able to figure that out. But you know, the average person's not staying more than 5 years. I'm shocked if it's that. In the room, who's on staff now? You go, yeah, it's a pretty good number, but measure who's not in the room. That's probably one of the points. We're going to hire a bunch of people. So,
Yeah. Jake, can you hear?
No, I can't hear. I don't know who you are, sir. But sorry.
Okay, so I should have been.
Sorry.
I should have been
Robert Schiller and then Eric.
Yeah, that's.
Bad. My bad.
Yeah, I know you, Robert. And who's next to you, Robert?
Eric.
Eric Sheldall, who's on the regional board.
Okay, and there's Kelsey.
And Kelsey. Of course,
Her eyeball.
Yeah.
I see Jana and yep, Buzzkirk there.
Yeah, I apologize for that, Jake. And then I was just thinking, as you were talking, you're probably going to have to speak up for him.
oh yeah.
Sorry, Eric.
I think what I stood out to me from this was not to try to accomplish this with the staff we have. Totally. And it's going to take some people.
To try to accomplish this with the staff that we have.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, it's having to go all the way down into there. Yeah, okay, it's good points. Anything else? Anything on your mind, Jake, that jumped out at you?
Yeah, a couple thoughts. One is trying to differentiate a little bit between what are the ministry objectives versus the financial objective. The financial objective is pretty clear. And then what are the ministry objectives, I think is kind of a question. I see a lot of feedback on there of, you know, staff and accountability and leaders. And there wasn't a whole lot about what the expectation of growth might be, just that there is an expectation of growth. Obviously we have some vision with the neighborhoods thing. But yeah, just kind of curious a little bit, I guess. Is this a financial campaign? And if it is a financial campaign, that usually comes with fruit markers, ministry markers. And I wasn't really super clear on what those are. And then kind of understanding that the financial objective, if we're asking a ministry or a board or regional members and some others to kind of be a part of making the financial piece happen, then we're also understanding that if we're expecting more fruit from that, that's what we're putting on our staff. And so kind of understanding, is that realistic, or does that make sense? Because I think the staff would say, well, yeah, sure, we'd be there if we could, but is $18 million going to get us there? And maybe it will, but in what ways is that going to help direct ministry staff? Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Yeah, I think you're asking one of the key questions that area directors have on their mind, which is, how does this apply to me? And if it does, I want to know how to engage in it. And then you're saying, along the way, how is this going to be measured?
Okay, so ministry objective versus financial objectives.
Mhm.
Good.
Right. All right. Anything else? All right. Are you,
Either of you two?
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, there's a lot of questions in my mind. Part of it is I've not been super close to Arizona Young Life in a while. So I think for me, a lot of it comes back to wanting clarity on exactly like the clear expectations piece. What are we asking people to do? Where are we not setting them up for success? Like, what's the gap, right? Like, if we need to get clarity more so, I think, on what we're asking people to do. But then there's also this gap of what resources and tools do you need to come alongside you to meet those expectations?
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about Kelsey coming into this process is that she has a lot of onboarding experience in HR and organizational kind of structure components that I think are going to be really key to this process. And I think that goes hand in hand with the thing that has jumped out at me. A lot of things have jumped out at me because I've been in so many conversations with people who have already been a part of this process. And I think that when clear expectations are huge, and I think, like, this is the thing that kind of is, when we're bringing on new staff, are we utilizing the best tools to go through that process? And, we use Wooster's assessment that has 20-year data now and measurements. Does that need to be updated with them? Is there a new process? Is there a way to engage people? Because I think it comes back to what Ryan even pointed out is, yeah, there's some history on our staff there now. This came up in our meeting last night with feasibility study couple, is they go, we're concerned about, most people get into this and they're not thinking long-term. Our staff associate training, I don't know what the number is, but they go through a 2-year process, and many of them go, yeah, this isn't for me. And so those are kind of the things that I feel like need to be addressed as well.
So those are lagging indicators.
Mm-hmm.
And all you're going to do is look at data and go, well, this is what we've done. Get to the leading indicators, profile who you want, and then interview for that person, and then find that person, and then train them how you want.
Profile who you want or what you
Yeah.
want?
Profile who you want. Don't say that to HR. Profiling is a bad word in HR, but it's the right people in the right seats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so, okay, good. So, Lance, what are we doing from here so that we're not talking too much? We're just,
Yeah.
what are we trying to accomplish today? Because what we've got is that taking leaders seriously is the fuel, consistency in staff and how that looks. Really making sure that, is it measurable? Is it sustainable? I think measurable is my word. What not to try accomplish this with the people that we have on staff now, and clear expectations, set up for success, and is there a gap in there? What's the gap?
Right.
So, and those are 6 really solid things.
They are really
I
solid.
say we call the meeting, send this on, and it's going to be lunch right now. There we go.
Robert, I'm so
Fire it up.
I'm so glad you're here. You cut through it. You make it happen. This is good. But I do
Spend hours on this. Hours.
I do think that those are, one of the objectives today was can we come out of the meeting with some clear objectives? We had in there 5 potentially that we had written out. I think those are 6 great ones. We have to keep it narrow in scope. We have 1 month. So objectives today were, all right, I think that those are great topics for us to be able to go in a month process and get some clarity. And the recommendation would be, how would we tell the regional board we want to proceed going forward after May through the summer into the next year? Chris actually said, I could see a ministry assessment team, maybe it's not you guys, but there's a ministry assessment team that's put together over the next even couple of years that continue to process through this and see these things come to fruition. So the idea would be today, great, we have 6 things on there that we can address. The other is we need to figure out when we want to meet next and what we want to come back with regarding these topics. Because if we have 12 people that are a part of it, do we want to break this up into have a few people work on that? Like you named something that you're incredibly passionate about, Robert, from the onset. The only thing. Yeah. But that's great. So would you take the leadership on that particular topic? And
No, I'm going to work with Kelsey. I'll do whatever she wants.
okay,
I'm
that's great.
officially moving to Kelsey as soon as this meeting's over, and on the regional board, I'm going to be doing whatever she wants. It's like, this is the joke in all organizations, but organizations send, Jake, they send 10 people to the Bahamas and they come up with this all-encompassing strategy. And they spend a week doing that. Then they go back to the middle management and spend 2 days at a conference teaching 100 people that strategy. And then middle management goes down to the people in the 1,000 retail stores, spends an hour and a half putting that strategy out. It's an upside down pyramid. It needs to be that at this level, we're spending the hour and a half, we get it done. Middle management still spends their 2 days, but the 2 weeks is spent on an inverted pyramid. Like, these are the people that are getting exactly what they need. They're spending an entire week on, this is the strategy, this is the mission, and this is what we're here to do. And I think actually going through this campaign, the one thing I thought about is actually asking everybody, this is a reset for us as a region. Asking everybody, this is the mission. This is our oath. This is what we're here to do. It's to go into high schools, grade schools, and to colleges and find kids and love them and befriend them and share the gospel with them. And here are the expectations of you as a leader, as a committee person, as an area director, all that. And it's a reset once and for all. Stand up, raise your right hand. Are you in? And if you're not, that's okay. You can still have Young Life stickers on your Nalgene in your car. You don't have to take them off. If it's time for a reset, though, we're good to go. This is what we need. We need a reset. Are you in? I'm in. I accept the mission to defend the kingdom of Christ and to go do this thing and get that reset and then move forward with some people. Because there might be some people that go, I've never really been in.
Yeah.
But I love
Right.
Young Life. Well, come, cook hot dogs. Don't be a leader on the team. Play Santa at the Christmas club. Do that. And you're still in Young Life. We're here. But in terms of our leaders, even if we shrink the ministry down, we'll start to get serious about the leaders, the staff, the committee, the donors, and everybody.
Yeah. Right.
Hard reset.
Right. Yeah. And that, okay. So, but when you say that, like, for instance, I was meeting with an area director the other day who said this has already been going on in his mind. I wonder if everyone was let go of Young Life staff, and then we said, you have to reapply. How many people, one, would reapply and how many people would be hired across the region? Well,
Let's do it.
I would reapply to be a volunteer leader. Don't necessarily know if I'd be rehired, but you'd reapply to be on the regional board. You'd probably get rehired.
Maybe.
You're a character. I love you.
yeah.
I don't know. I'd work
Actually, I
with
want more.
Okay. What?
I'm in the same boat.
Oh my goodness. So anyway, okay. So,
You and I.
so Robert, can I get what you wrote down there? Because I have my notes, but I like the way you just read those.
Okay, So read these again.
Yeah, I want you to
Okay,
read.
so taking leaders seriously, but the key word there is that they're the fuel. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just taking them seriously, but they're the fuel to our ministry.
Right.
You can build the biggest engine, the biggest thing, it doesn't go without the fuel. Jana had staff, consistency, and training.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan had, he echoed that, but he also added that, average time of staff person in Arizona, and taking a look at that, is it sustainable, which was the key takeaway from that. So asking the lagging indicator of how long they've been here, but then is what we're doing sustainable. Eric's was, not to try and accomplish this with the staff we have now. Jake, you had ministry objectives versus financial objectives, which is awesome. And then Kelsey, clarity of expectations. Are we setting ourselves up for success, and what's the gap in that? So here's where we are. Here's where we want to go. What's it going to take to get there? The gap that's a huge. That's the key, and that might be where hard reset comes into play with that gap.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So if we take, let me ask you this: if we take taking leaders seriously in fuel, and you're getting together with Kelsey, is that something from a process of the best use of all of our time? Let's say we have three more meetings before May 16th. I don't know that it's reasonable to do more than that based on people's schedules. If we have that, or is it, I guess the question is, Kelsey and I can meet many times and we can be assistants outside of this meeting. But when it comes to you guys' time, I'm thinking, can we meet once a week before May 16th? Do Tuesdays at 10 a.m. to 11:30 work? Sort of
So
not,
for 5 weeks now.
well, not 5 weeks because of 4 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So if Jake, does that work
Oh,
on?
you know what, I'm missing one, but I didn't.
Well, the reality is that's going to happen.
And here,
Yeah, on this Rebecca basis.
That's,
What's that,
yeah,
Eric?
right?
I hate to toss this in, but
Go
as
ahead.
of last night, we're actually going to be out of the country.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, good for you.
I know, me too. Where are you going?
This is us. We have a friend who has battled cancer for 10 years. She has an appointment in China at a hospital there for an American doctor for a special process. It's got an ass ditch, and it's May 3rd through May 13th.
Yeah.
We're going with support. Plus, we've never been to China, so I really hate that because this just came up. She just got her bed last night.
Oh.
And so,
Yeah.
I hate to not be close to that.
Yeah.
Except that there's in
That's true. So here's what I would say. So we have two other. Anna Sosa wanted to be a part of this. She couldn't make the meetings. And so I'm going to keep her in the loop. She may be able to pop in on a call. Eric just said maybe you can pop in on a call. Scott Stollard, Molly Allen, who are in Payson, also.
10 to
They're in the
11:30,
loop.
it's in my calendar for the next 4 weeks.
So that's great. Jake, does that work in Yarrows?
Yeah, I mean, I have Tuesday morning meetings scheduled every single week already from 9 to noon.
Okay.
Those are, but I mean, I switch stuff to try to make it today. So I'll, do my best to try to make stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm saying Robert's on a roll here. Is there a better way to go forward with this than breaking this up into individual categories where you're working with Kelsey and some other people are working on?
Well, you're not going to get, I think the idea behind some of this was you're going to get staff input.
Right.
And you are a staff, but you're not,
I'm
right?
not
You're not, it's not the same perspective.
Oh,
as
no,
Jake
no,
or
no.
your Janice.
No,
So,
you guys are.
I think that if what I understood this was about was to get input from staff on what the findings were. Is that right?
That's one of the components of this, which is y'all have a sphere of influence with staff that you can have those conversations. And so what I'm asking is the best way to move forward with these 6 topics over the next 30 days and how to efficiently say, are we going to attach that or attack that, is if we did the taking leaders, maybe the idea would be to drill down on each one of these to go, what would be the questions you'd be asking?
Because with the training and consistency, like, I love Rick's training. It's been amazing, but it's focused more on spirituality and the pastoralship of that, which has been great because that was an area that I really wanted to grow in, but it was not focused at all on nuts and bolts. So it'd be interesting to ask the staff, especially staff associates and area directors, what pieces, did you feel like may have been missing? So there's some questions I think we
Especially
ask.
if we could hand them a more clear expectation of, if this was what we expected you to learn coming out of this program, what areas would you say?
And
are missing?
nothing critical on Leanne or Rick.
No, but just if it's a reset.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. This is the who that came out of our 6 statements. Leader, staff, and ministry.
Yeah.
So with 2 guys on the regional board, a guy on a Scottsdale committee and a guy on a Scottsdale committee, none of us said anything about committee. So
Oh, it's huge.
I actually think we should just not focus on that. We didn't mention it. It wasn't important.
No,
Nobody said,
No, I have a whole bunch of notes. I didn't know how to prepare for this. So I
think
really
it
think I got a bunch of notes.
Center.
But
that's
if
it.
you want, like what Eric hit on, if we don't have somebody dedicated to walking with committee chairman in our region, we're screwed. This thing will not.
So committee, even though we didn't
I think
mention it.
What Lance's role was that he got pulled out of, where he's assigned every committee chairman, like the region carries shepherding, leading, walking with committee chairman.
So I'm
Most area
gonna
directors don't know how
dotted
to do
line this, but committee goes on here. Underneath the dotted line, we focused on leader, staff, and ministry.
because it's still local area driven. This
Right.
pot of gold does not change the paradigm of every ministry is driven by its local.
Okay, so
This
that's,
supports this. If
this
you think
does-
about it,
it's
if you
the
think
umbrella.
about potentially some of the gaps in terms of support and resources, I think there's gaps for how committees do that properly.
Well, I asked Lance, I go, is there a committee chair training? He said, no.
it's the
I mean,
foundation.
it's
the roof. It's
There
the
is-
roof.
there is a committee training, but it's not an effective committee training. Because
We don't
essentially I sat down with you in
do that.
15 minutes and told you what a
So
committee
then
chair is.
it's the leaders, staff, and ministry, and the committee is supporting and covering both that. So it's now those 4 things, right? That's the who. And then the what is fuel, which is the what and why of why leaders are, leaders and what they do. These are the other keywords: consistency, training, sustainable, financial, clarity, and expectations. So that's what we said coming out of this, we took from this. We could spend days and pull, we can make this list miles long, but our initial gut reaction, which we're all good at, hey friend, hi buddy, little bud back there. These are our initial thoughts. Like this is, and if you think about it, it's that, it's that first take is, these are 7 really good things to kind of filter through leaders, staff, ministry, and committee. What and why are you doing it? The fuel, where's the level of consistency? That ties into expectations. Once we get that, make sure that we have clarity on that. And then the training and the sustainable flow in, the financial, that's just going to come, or it's not. The more we do this right, I think the more the financial will just take care of itself.
Though I do think that there's some tools and resources that again could equip us to be more successful in being consistent with donors and I think there's some pieces that do tie into that. But I think you're right, if we focus on doing the other things well, it flows, I think potentially with some more resources of how do we measure financial health, how do we define that, what does it take to get there? I think there has to be clarity around that too.
So I don't know how to say this the right way, but I almost think there does need to be a little bit of there is a little bit of a curtain that needs to happen where leaders don't worry about that. Leaders don't worry about how we're going to get kids to camp, how we're going to pay for it, what goes on. That the committee worries about that.
Yes.
The area directors don't worry and stress out about raising the money. If you have the right committee, you don't ever have to worry about having a fundraising coffee in your life. If the committee is doing the right job. So if you can have a curtain there a little bit, the focus here for leaders is on loving kids, on staff loving and developing those leaders. Then the other side, the firewall, if you will, on the other side is the committee. backing that up and making sure there's consistency in those things. So
Robert, if
That's
that would
accurate,
happen,
that's accurate what you just said.
that would be amazing, but I would say probably just a very small handful of staff in our region even understand what that would even look like to them, to have a committee.
Because they never sniffed you.
Because I don't even, 7 years, I've never even come close to experiencing any of what you just said.
Mhm.
So that's the reality, is that we have a bunch of people that are operating without even a hint of a committee.
Yeah. Because ideally, Robert, what you just expressed is like, yeah, right on. That is how, and the committee should stack hands
I would love
and
that.
should do that. But Jana's right. I've been to her committees in the past,
They're
in the past.
sweet and I agree a lot.
Well, here's the reality is we have a lot of great people on committees with no real concept of what a committee is supposed to do or how to do it. I mean, like, if we were on a committee here, if y'all were a area committee and we came and said, this is your specific role, what you do. By the way, there's a handbook that talks all about this. There's plenty of resources online that talk about it. The reality is it doesn't matter apparently how many resources we have. We still don't have committees that understand it, and a chairperson who says, I understand what it means to lead a group of people and that they're stacking hands saying, we're going to take care of the financial needs of this area. Like, so much so we're like dying on this hill, meaning that Jana's our area director and we want to see her funded so she can go out and do the ministry and invest in leaders, invest in kids, and run that ministry. That would be ideal to do. The question is so how does that happen?
because you have to separate the personality and the process. I want to support Jana. She's the personality. She's so sweet. She's amazing. She's doing all this stuff. She made cookies at 2 a.m. in the morning. I was like, no. That's the personality.
Yeah.
And we always support the personality. It's supporting the process. Your job, Jana might like be mean or whatever, but she's out there effectively doing that. Here's your goals and expectations as a committee. Get the finances of the and define what you're supporting. Don't raise $1 million if you only need 500. If you do, give it away. Like, share the wealth. But here's what the committee needs to do for this area. Here's the resources that they need, and then it's our job to go through and get this done. Meanwhile, on the other side of the firewall, Jana's doing it because all we do at committee meetings is go around the personality of the area director.
Yeah, for sure.
And honestly, that's going to be huge in the whole neighborhood concept. Because are we supporting the personalities of each neighborhood person, or are we supporting the process of this idea? And so I think that when we talk about what does this mean to me, the neighborhoods, what does this big campaign mean to me? It should mean nothing to me, because I'm the personality, but it means everything to a process. And I think what you just said is going to be really important.
You're dealing with a franchise concept where area directors sometimes look at it like, I have this franchise, this is my patch, I've got to figure, I got to do my thing. We go to these franchise meetings where we all meet together and we all share some ideas and stuff. It's not. This is your ministry. It's a mission. It's an oath. This is your defined mission. The support comes from here.
So when you talk about a committee that functions that way, who finds those people and who makes sure that they're functioning in the way that they're supposed to?
Not the area director.
Right. And so
You got to put a Robert or a Doug like we did in Scottsdale. We knew exactly what we were looking for. We knew what we were going to do. And then even then, here we are. We did that for 4 years, worked our butts off, and now it's kind of, we're trying to figure things out again. And we're going to just rinse and repeat. It's finding the right people that say, we're in, we know Young Life, we're in for this. As long as we live at 85118, Julian Robert Schiller on this committee to do whatever, because we live in that area code, like those people. Because what we do is we bring in people like, oh, these people just moved here and he's a real estate agent and they want to join committee and they'll come in and, we filter in and out. We don't have any profile for what we're looking for there. And every committee, in my opinion, should be set up with a CEO, a chief financial officer, a chief operating officer, a marketing guy or girl, and an HR person. And that's the business.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so Robert, let me just tell you, all of what you just said is exactly what I was doing in the first year that I came in and making rounds, having exactly those categories, having those conversations, going into committee meetings. It was great. It was
Before you, it was Jay.
and before me is
Jay
Jay.
and I had this conversation.
Yeah,
7
but that's the
years
wrong
ago.
person, the wrong seat.
Well, okay, but the point I was going down is the reason that I went out of that role after 1 year and gave myself a review, did a 5-page review of myself at the end of that year, and here's what I said is, as soon as I step out of this role, within a year, everything's going to go back to the same.
It was, right.
So the response from Chris was, well, then let's not go down this road because Jay went down this road, Lau, you're going down this road, or what? So so really what we're saying is, and I think it goes back to you, is do we have the staff to pull it off? Can we do it with our current people? Are we going to have someone dedicated to doing what we're talking about right now with committees that's really going to be intentional with it and train? Because this is an ongoing process that the ARDs are not going to pick up. They're not going to pick up that slack in this area.
Yeah, Eric's comment and your insight is really, it's the only real time. Everything else is wishful thinking and what we really want and measurement. Eric, yours is the only one that's real time. Do we have it now, today, right now at 10, it's a good insight. Really good insight.
And as great a ministry as this is, and we love it with all of our hearts, and it's a little bit like, I compare it a little bit. Okay, it's a great ministry. We love it with all of our hearts. I compare it a little bit to the Midwest Food Bank, though it's not Midwest Food Bank. Okay, but I compare it just a little bit to that, and it's, we've got a lot of people, a number of people working at a lot less money than they can make in private world, but they love the Lord and they love Midwest and they love Young Life. I think we're going to have to pay for some talent.
Oh, I agree 100%. Let's pay people more. I mean, the educational system isn't going to do it, so let's be leaders in this. And
yeah, but when you say that, let's
raise it, pay them more.
Yeah. So are you? But
is this somebody that just comes on for a year to get us on?
Well, I think we're talking about a couple of different things. Because hold on. So you're talking about let's pay people more from a committee standpoint, like area directors. That's what I was hearing out of you, right?
Up and down.
But what I was hearing from Eric is, if we're going to move forward with this, let's bring some people in who might be in for a season. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
She's hitting it. This is exactly the kind of thinking that we need. It's like,
yeah,
there wasn't even a box to put you in. Like, well, what job? It's not a role that exists. And I think that what you're hitting at, I think some of the roles we're talking about, they don't exist yet in Young Life. They exist in other places, but not in Young Life, because our model of, whatever our model is, it's
But
not.
this is different. This can be the beginning of
yeah.
we made a decision to go, okay, we're going to go out there and raise almost $19 million. And so who's going to do that? Who's going to head that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to take some pretty good talent.
Yeah.
It's going to take some real good talent, actually.
Yeah. So when we talk about that, just to put some specifics on what that talent is. So last night, go ahead and bring this up. This couple brought up and said, we need a professional fundraiser to come on board to be part of this process. And our regional board gave it about 20 seconds of discussion time when that was brought up and saying, well, that wasn't really the Young Life culture. That's not necessarily something we're doing. But this couple was adamant about, they're like, we've been part of these to go to an $18 million campaign. Like, we need a professional who does this. They know what to do. They've been down that process or whatever. Is that kind of?
That's my thought. Or a spokesman. And this is you'll learn that I talk a lot of craziness as this goes on, but this is craziness. I look at Midwest Food Bank and I compare this a little bit, and it's like, okay, because we're trying to gain recognition, okay, into the valley. Young Life has recognition.
Mm-hmm.
And did I hear 250,000 alumni? Was that, somebody tossed that out?
250,000 alumni in Arizona?
Easily.
I think easily too.
It's probably 25 million people nationally.
Yeah. I mean,
Easily.
we don't have that. And so, again,
Yeah.
craziness, I go, okay, what's Jan Brewer doing? And what would it cost? What would Jan Brewer cost for?
The former governor?
He's talking crazy talk, Robert. Come on.
She's at the Billboard having a drink.
Well, we
I should go join her.
Lynn Security is with hospice.
Yeah, she is.
She loves Midwest Food Bank. It's like, what's hospice pay? I don't know. Would somebody like, and again, this is just.
I know where you're
Tim
going.
Hatrick, that's fun.
I think a spokesperson is great, but if you look at our donor retention rates, I don't think it's just getting in front of people and being able to make the pitch that's hurting us. I think it's retaining the interest and retaining the connection with the people who we're already connecting with. I mean, I think we retain 50% of donors year over year, and that's only 1 year to the next. It's not even tracking it any longer than that. That's a lot of work to get in front of 50% of our donors every year, only to have them not get the next year.
And then,
I should never ask about committee on that list. Right now, we're
But
still
honestly,
stuck on
that-
This
it.
won't work without that piece.
That may be the foundation of this.
The 18 million, you'll pour 18 million out of the hole, and it'll be gone after 10 years. They won't last without a local committee. Because the personalities come and go.
Well, and I think too,
I just don't think that I'm here for the leaders, and it may not last, but you won't get there if you don't have the leaders.
agree. And so,
Like, what if I made a call today and I got 18 million bucks right now? What if I got 18 million bucks and I brought it in here and we put it on the table? Then what would we do? Because that's the question you need to be asking.
That's right.
Exactly.
Because a 50-cent stamp to Bill and Melinda Gates, and it's the day Melinda says, I feel bad about how much money we have, and there's this Young Life thing, here's 18 million bucks. Seriously. Okay, then what do we do?
Yeah.
And then it's, well, now we got the money, let's fix up the race car. Let's get a pit crew, let's get a driver, let's go around the track, round and round and round.
well, okay, so this brings up something, though, that's really important, because you think about, this is the question I've been asking tons of people, which is, by the way, let's get some clarity. The regional plan is 10 million. It's an $18 million. I know we have this discussion so much. It's 18 million in the whole campaign. 10 million is towards the region. 7.5 million of the region is towards the neighborhood initiative, under-resourced areas, new neighborhoods, kids in poor communities going to camp, all that kind of stuff that will impact the next 20 years if that finances come in. Lost Canyons, 3.75 million to help with expansion of that. And then 5 million of it's estate planning, like getting it to be put into people's estates to give it. So that's not even money we're counting. So take out the Lost Canyon and the estate part, and we're at a $10 million plan for the Arizona region, essentially is what we're looking at. We want to see Lost Canyon and estate money raised, but we're talking about 10 million and 7.5. The other 2.5 is going towards building the foundation and resources, the things that we're talking about here, which is how do we raise up the leadership program? How do we get, sustain and help influence committees? How do we get more college leaders coming in, which one of the components of the plan is the Leader 1,000 college leader initiative, which is how do we have out of the 4 major universities in Arizona produce 1,000 leaders, volunteer leaders into the system. Okay, so how many do we have right now, volunteer leaders that are coming out of, the 4 majors,
250.
Okay, that's what I was gonna guess too. About 250.
Generously.
Mhm.
How many in Tucson, Jake? How many college leaders?
Figuring out how to unmute there. Am I unmuted?
Yeah,
Okay. College age leaders between all the areas and the college ministry, I'd say is probably maybe 70. That's like freshmen to that's not, we've produced 70 this year. That's freshmen through seniors. Does that make sense?
so we're at
200 probably.
200
Total college age leaders.
I got 22 in this part.
in the state.
Well, if we want to be truthful in our numbers.
Yeah. Oh, we do. Yeah. So, okay, so, but just, it's good to get that kind of perspective, because, that's a huge increase, right? In 5 years, that's 5 times the current number of college leaders. So we have to go, is that, we have the God picture, which is anything's possible with God. Now we have this process picture, which is what's the process, and do we have the people to get it, and is that something that's doable, and would the college leaders be on board? That's all.
But there's another piece to that, and that's something that Ryan and I have been struggling with, and I'm sure the others have as well, is that it's getting the right leaders. Can I get?
Why are they leaders, number one, and then tracking how long they're leaders.
And are they spiritually ready to be leaders? And are they wanting to be discipled? And all these things,
Right.
I can get leaders, but
Yeah.
are some of the comments
Yes.
on this was, what's their spiritual
Mhm.
depth?
Right.
Was there, and that's a piece that we're dealing with as well, because we get a lot of leaders, but they're not ready.
It goes back to we define what our spiritual depth is and what are our expectations and what are our standards. Like, what do, you know, love God, love everyone, you know.
Yeah.
And then that comes down to area directors in their own areas with, whatever leaders are signing, which varies from area to area. But generally, you have, this contract that you say, I'm entering into as a volunteer leader, and I'm going to live my life a certain way, following Jesus with this kind of parameters and so forth. But I feel like that's very subjective based on area. Would y'all say that?
Yeah.
Jake? I don't
know. I spoke for you. Please speak for yourself. I mean, I spoke right.
What's the exact question?
Well, I think when we're talking about,
Why are they leaders? What's the filter? Well, you and I have this.
This doesn't further the meeting, but looking back a little bit, when I hear these numbers of 200 or 250 or whatever, I just think back a few years and like all the angels in heaven singing. I mean, what you've done is just remarkable. And same with you, Lance. I mean, a different path, but yeah. So, we're going, there's only 200, there's only 250.
No, we're not. I mean, I've thought a lot about this. So I haven't thought on a regional level, just trying to take care of the piece of pie that I'm in. And the West Valley is not even close to postured to handle anymore. Really, if we had replaced 30 leaders this year, if we placed 60, the areas around there are not ready for. We can't place them. I don't have good conscience to place them in those areas. They're not going to be taken care of. They're going to be shepherded. They're not going to be led well. And then they'll last for 6 months and they'll retire. And now we have a retired young life leader at 20 years old. That's a fail. We're not set up for this. The area directors have too many things going on their plate. We don't have strong team leaders. I think that, and spiritually speaking, what we ask a college student to do is insanely difficult. We have to acknowledge that. And it's not for everybody. But, I think there's only a couple of areas that are actually, in my little, I'm only going to talk about my piece. There's only a couple areas that are set up for a college student to be successful. And so when I love the idea of a hard reset. And I think hard reset and great, even hard reset of Lost Canyon, like camps off the table. We're resetting to introducing kids to Jesus and helping them grow their faith. Mm-hmm. I think we got to take it all the way down to the studs to that level. Not just do we have the right staff people, but what are we asking people to do? Because what we've created is almost impossible for a college student to be a successful leader. The only place that I think that can actually work as a wildlife leader. Sustainable.
Add an insight to that. This is what I've learned this last year and a half. Ryan blessed me and gave me a group of guys from when we had our big shindig out at the resort. We had the brain scientists come in. Here's what I've learned about life. An 18-year-old girl going to college is this much more ready to experience college and to figure out what she's going to do with her life and to look at those things than an 18-year-old boy. He's 4 or 5 years away. And we send our young men to college and go, hey, there's this thing called alcohol, there's this thing called partying, socializing, get some grades, and then graduate at 22 and know what you want to do with your life. They're developing the last part of their brain, their lizard brain at that age. And I can take college girl graduates, this isn't a sexist comment, and I can work with them and they know what they want to do. Sure. They're pretty good. And they can't, a lot of them can't date guys because those guys are so far behind them. And I'm like, date a 27-year-old dude, because the guys I'm dealing with, they're leaders. They don't even know how to get up in the morning and figure out that they played Fortnite until 3, and that's why they're tired.
Yeah, right.
And so it's not just college leaders. I think we have to kind of divide that into girls and boys. We're having an extremely hard time finding guy leaders in the ministry. Yeah. Because girls see an Instagram and go, that looks like fun. A couple of my buddies, let's go do that. Let's go be leaders. My daughter and 9 of her friends are leaders in wildlife because they're doing it all together. Dudes don't do that. They'll see an Instagram and go, that's really stupid.
Yeah.
If Eric and I take them out and drive the truck, or we go shooting, or go to the lake and take them water skiing, then the dudes are like, Rick used to take people scaling rocks, that kind of stuff. Then dudes are like, hey, yeah, I'll hang out. I'll be a leader. We can do that.
Yeah, right.
And I think
Right. It's true.
there's
I
guy
think
growth.
that, yeah, because as I went down the Word document here, it's talking about the quote, young life is needed now more than ever due to culture change and the impacts of kids. So in our metrics, do we understand that actually young life is going to get smaller if we go with that?
Well, that's one of
And we got to be okay with that. We're going smaller. Camp numbers are going to go down because if we just want to reach girls, it can get bigger. You want to reach dudes, we got to go small.
Probably.
I'm not, thus saith the Lord on that, but I'm really close to it.
so.
Girls are more of an infantry platoon, and the dudes got to be SEAL team. There
But
may be
what's
6 of
changed-
them.
Like what's changed about 20, 30 years ago versus now?
I think the social networks of kids have gotten so much smaller.
Mhm.
And so
They have 700 friends.
I'm just
Yeah.
trying to think about like what about
My friend
guys
group now.
has changed in the last 20 to 30 years.
Oh, I
that
think
makes
that's a
sense.
huge topic. The feminization, man, is a huge
Yeah.
topic. But I think that
We
we're
pushed it
seeing the
back.
fruit of it. And so even guys my age, I'm 46, almost 47, but there's a huge gap in the 10 years and then in the 10 years and then the 10 years. So 17, 27, 37, there's a huge gap in a guy learning to be responsible.
You have
And
two
when we
boys,
ask
it's coming.
somebody to be a young life leader and we're going, that's a big responsibility.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
The Mormons
Jake's
send
100%.
people off on a mission during those critical 2 years. It's amazing. It's the most amazing. Every time I see
Yeah.
the white shirt drive by the bike, we used to look at a kid that was 18 years old and go, he's enlisting. Now if my son says I'm going to go enlist in the Marines and go 4 years and then go to college, everybody in our neighborhood goes, what the heck's wrong with him? He's going to enlist. And the fact of the matter is, if you enlist at 18, you get out at 22, you're not ready to go to college, and it's not about how many hand keg stands you can do. It's not about how many girls there are. It's about, I'm going to get my education. I'm going to figure out what I want to do the rest of my life. I learned some stuff in the military. I learned some stuff on my Mormon mission. I did some stuff in that. So socially, those things are changing. We don't look at service, the military, the Peace Corps, any of that stuff anymore. It's like, you have to get good grades. Why? Because you have to go to a good college. Why? Because you have to get a good job. Why? Because you have to marry and have 2.3 kids. Why?
I'm gonna break it down into a little more simple process. Having two
You're
boys,
fine.
having 2 boys that are 8th grader and sophomore who didn't really care about wildlife that much. But I will tell you this, we've had these discussions. I know that area directors have had them, but girls may see an Instagram post, maybe as a group go, let's go be wildlife leaders together. For both of my boys, and I'll use those as an example across the board, I see a lot is the difference of them getting engaged or not engaged. I can tell them all day long, you should go be on work crew, you should go do this, you could do that, okay, whatever. This is an example of my Will, sophomore at Arcadia, runs track, doesn't really care about track that much, doesn't think it's that great, but he likes being a part of it. He's not winning any races necessarily. The track coach asked him and one other kid to go to lunch on a Saturday. My son comes back from a 2-hour lunch with the track coach and is like, the whole world is different. He's excited about track. Now I have relationship with the coach. Now when I talk to coach, he tells me this all the time. When I talk to coach at practice, it's about like I actually know what's going on in his life. It's all the difference, and it comes down to contact work. And I text the track coach, I said, dude, I've been a young life leader for 30 years, been around it. What you just did is the key thing in any kid's life, especially my boy's life, who have been around people that connect with them, is the whole game changed because you went out to lunch and you spoke life into them and said, I want you to excel in the 200, which you haven't raced yet, and I'm going to put you in that. And the reality is anytime a young life leader at Arcadia has asked Will or Charlie to go out and do something, they've always said yes. They've always come back and been excited, and they never get asked to like, I want you to go do this because I see that you could be a great leader. It's called contact work, and it's a game changer. And my boys would go, I'm in if that guy asks me to do it, and they never get asked.
Yeah, Daniel Boone used to ask me when he was single, like, hey, I'm going to the post office. You want to go? Yeah, post office. I'll go with you. I'll get Daniel Boone. Like, it was
Yeah.
a post office. We were going to mail a package, but I got to go hang out with Daniel Boone, and he usually caused trouble, and it was fun. And
Yeah.
so it's relationships.
But
It's the
that's
one thing.
That's about what it's about.
It's the one thing we don't have in the key words, though. We have fuel, we have capacity, we have expectations, we have clarity, we have all those things. If the umbrella for leaders, staff, and ministry is committee, the umbrella for all those things is that we have those relationships.
Well, and I think the implication, I think implied in what I was saying of probably getting smaller is redefining the job description of a volunteer leader.
Yeah.
Like hard reset. We're gonna, I'll see you hitting this. Redefine everything. Define volunteer leader job description. Because really, all our testimony, all the best testimonies of Young Life come out of a leader, a life on a life, not a program. And it's become so program driven that we burn people. I can't do club and blah, all the stuff we add on. All the stuff we add on that I just think we got to look at it. Like, but the problem is the treadmills, it's like you're at the gym and the treadmill's set on 9 miles an hour. And you try and stop and address this stuff, you get chucked off.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it begs the question, we get 10 million on the table. Are we going to do something with it that is going to last and actually get the result we want, which is more kids to meet Jesus, follow them for decades? That's what we want.
Whether we get 10 million on the table or we don't get 10 million or we get 100 million on the table, are we going to meet kids, introduce them to Jesus, and ask them to follow him his whole life long? Tomorrow night with my guys, Dom's leaving. It's the last time I'm going to be with them this summer. Based on our talk, I'm redoing everything. I'm coming back next year. We're going to be Young Life again. Like, I'm going to be your Young Life leader. We're going to go. Don't be leader. Because 5 to 7 are gone. Like, it's resetting that thing to go, this is going to be life on life, and these 7 relationships are all I can handle. Like, because of the conversation we have. Like, that's all that matters. Because I can go talk to 200 people, and if it's just a little this, there's no effect in it. None.
So, okay. Hey, Ashley. Ashley's here. Yeah, so Ashley, if we had to sum up in one sentence what we've talked about so far, it's been hard reset, completely fire everyone, see if they want to be rehired back. So, not quite, but a little bit. I just, not to shock you too much in that, but the reality is the further we get into this discussion, and this is what in the next 25 minutes, I would like to see us be able to kind of close this up for, like, how do we move forward with what we've talked about. We have 6 categories that essentially were named of areas that we want to explore. Just taking leaders seriously, which Robert was talking about, is the fuel. Strong consistency and training with leaders and staff. Is it sustainable with the staff that we have, what we're doing, how do we onboard, and how do people succeed in this? And what are we doing to help foster all that? Don't accomplish. What is number 4, Craig? What's he have on there?
Outside of the campaign.
Because I have ministry objectives and financial.
You
Okay.
can see
Yeah, after is it
sustainable.
where you said don't accomplish? What's it? I can't see it. Robert, I'm trying to read you. We're trying to read you here. After sustainable staff, what was the number 4, Robert? Yeah, turn that down a little. Sorry, one, please.
Is 52 okay?
Yeah. Hey, Robert.
Oh my gosh,
Number 2.
don't do that.
What is it?
After sustainable staff, what was your next item?
Is it sustainable?
Yeah, what's the next item you had after that?
Financial, clarity, and expectations.
Okay, there was one in between that one.
Right.
Well, the keywords are fuel. You have consistency, training,
Yeah,
sustainable,
yeah.
financial, clarity, and expectations.
Okay, that's only 5 though. You named
1,
6.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. fuel, the what and the why,
Right.
your consistency,
Yeah.
your training, your sustainable,
Yeah.
your financial clarity and expectations.
Oh, okay. You were
That's-
using those as clarity and expectation as two separate ones. Got it. I was put it as one.
Well, clarity of expectations. You can have expectations, but you're not clear.
Right. Okay.
Which is Kelsey's point, which
Right.
is, and then she put in there setting up for success. The gap thing in there is part of the reset. Because we can reset all we want, but we got to find out here's where we are, here's where we want to go. The reset has to take in consideration what's the gap for leaders, for staff, for everything.
Okay. So let me ask you this as we start to wind this part down, because we want you to have, I think you bring up a good point, which is we want you to be able to talk about this with people outside of this team, right? To get some feedback, to be able to process. This is what came to my mind. Is this helpful if we drill down essentially a one-page form of some sort of these particular categories? Correct me if you have better ideas of this. And we actually have certain questions that we want to ask, because I always think, like, how do you make this very simple to someone that you're talking to, another area director, a staff person, a volunteer leader, and you ask, like, and we have these 6, and we have a few questions on each one and said, what do you think? Essentially, you were making a survey of sorts. And then we ask them to engage in conversation regarding that. Is that too simplified? Is that a good idea? Is that something that you think would be beneficial?
So can I? You guys
Yeah.
hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So you're saying if we leave this meeting, what are we leaving this meeting going out and asking? What information are we trying to gather before our next meeting? Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I had a couple thoughts. I think Ryan was onto a lot of the stuff, similar stuff to what we're experiencing in Tucson, which is what we're asking college leaders to do is pretty enormous, especially a college male, and I think there's a lot that can go into that, and we're not going to solve that right this second. But it's to say that college ministry is going to go from 250 to 1,000 doesn't feel very realistic, because in Tucson, we've actually felt a decrease in leader production with college ministry development, because it's found a safe landing place for a bunch of kids who would have gone on to be leaders, but now instead of giving themselves away, they actually have a place they can just sit and continue to consume. And so the other thing is we found that there's an expectation that churches are feeding their leaders, and it's not maybe the church's fault, it's the leaders not being plugged into churches and them thinking Young Life is what's going to feed them. And so when college ministry in Tucson has had like small groups, and it has kind of made more of an emphasis on the discipleship of the college student, it's actually created more longevity in our leaders and more mature leaders, because whether we like it or not, Young Life becomes their church. And I know they might found a church here or there that they go to, or they might go on Sundays, and there's a few that are great or whatever. But one thing is I personally think that it would be very interesting for us as a mission in our region to assess the college ministry and where it's going. Sam said he went to the national thing, and the big thing there is outreach. Well, the more Sam focuses on outreach, the less leaders that we end up getting from the U of A. Which we may say that's what we want. We want the college to do outreach ministry. But if we're saying for this project to work, we want 1,000 leaders, then the college mission has to change. It has to be different. Or you're doing 2 different things, or I don't know, but there's something going on there. The other thing that Ryan was saying is that the program versus the contact work, the program versus the relationship. And we're talking in Tucson about shifting, doing some serious shifts of how do we refocus on contact work and not make it about the program. So many of our leaders think Young Life is the program, and we're so program heavy. Camp is a program, club is a program, campaigners are a program. And what we ask financially and time-wise from leaders for those 3 things is massive. They have no time to go be with kids. But if you ask kids, and you said this, Lance, what makes the difference. I don't remember club talks. I don't remember club games when I was in high school. I remember when my young life leader called me on Friday night and said, hey, I want to hang out with you. This is your night. We're going to do whatever you want. And I was sitting at home that night depressed because all my buddies were out drinking. I had nothing to do because I didn't want to do that, you know? And so that's the thing that changes life. And so we're talking about some really dramatic things that we're going to do in our area to refocus on being with kids. The other thing that will do is, I think so many programmatic things is it stops us from getting adult leaders. And that's where you're going to get mature post-college leaders. That's where you're going to get mature, especially men. But to ask a man to leave his family after he's worked all day, and this could be a woman too, but we're talking about needing more men. After you've worked all day and you have a family at home, and we're saying, come Monday night, come Thursday night, go to contact work, go to camp, winter camp, go take your boys on work crew. So we're talking about how do you eliminate some of those programmatic things to say, go be with kids, and can that be more realistic for adult leaders to do? And so those are some of just the thoughts, and it's all kind of the things that you guys were talking about, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Great comments, Jake. I do think to piggyback on what you just said, Robert and I were on the same team at Arcadia for a while. What you're talking about, if we could have a perspective of every senior leader, at least, because we're fortunate to have, I was fortunate to be on Young Life team with a senior leader who busted out the list of kids every week and said, let's go around, you're going to go talk, right?
He's still kissing up the
Now, yeah. And
kissing up.
so, well, I say that is we had a lot of dysfunction on our team. But one thing that we did do, though, was contact work.
Absolutely.
And so what you're getting down to, and I know there's other discussions in the region going on about contact work, but it really is true. It's the difference maker. And that has to be something that comes out of this process. When we say a month from now, we're going to make some suggestions to the regional board and say, hey, we think these are priorities. Really, that's ultimately what we're saying is, these are the top priorities we think need to be addressed in our region over the next year or 2 years as we move forward. And whether we were going to raise $1 or, like you said, $100 million, these still have to be addressed. Like,
I hate to say this, but this meeting is 2 buckets, and it really is raising the money is one bucket, and what we're doing in the ministry is another.
Yeah.
And this bucket needs to be addressed whether that bucket happens or not.
right, that's what I
That
just said.
bucket is,
Yeah,
we get an 18-wheeler from Eric's Food Bank, and we haul money in that capacity. It doesn't matter if this bucket, because it's who.
yeah, 100%. No, we have to address these things. Whether, and I think that's really the goal of this team. The goal of this team isn't to figure out how to raise necessarily more money. It's about how to go forward with a healthy ministry as we, the hard reset is, I actually get excited about those kind of comments. I don't get worried about them because I think like that is one of the main themes throughout this plan. And if you sat with Dan Petty and listened to him, he says is, if you're going to go down this road, you cannot do things the same way you've always done them. That you have to do things differently. Last night in our meeting with this couple is they pushed it back on us and they started making recommendations that were typically not Young Life-y kind of things. They said, that may be uncomfortable, but we're going to have to do some uncomfortable things if we go forward with this. And usually uncomfortable situations, you kind of rub up against each other. There's some frustration. Sean McGeever can be on today. He said, hey, I only want to be a part of this team if we're actually going to kind of hash it out and like, hey, there may be some friction going on, but the reality of this is this is a great opportunity for us to do things differently and keep it, like I said, keep in step with the Spirit. Where's the Lord leading us in this? But this is a great opportunity for us to get healthy.
God will always be relevant till the end of time. God will be relevant, whether Young Life's relevant or not. I'm talking to a couple of us in this room, but when I was a kid, the March of Dimes, Labor Day Telethon was the end-all be-all, raise millions of dollars. They're the number one fundraising thing in the world. You don't even, well, I'm ask. Young person doesn't know what the March of Dimes is. You don't even know what the cause is.
Yeah.
Like, what does the March of Dimes do? Because I know what Step Up for Cancer does. Will Ferrell does that. Like, the March of Dimes has gone from the pinnacle to it's not relevant.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter anymore. And so God's going to always be relevant. Is Young Life going to always be relevant? That depends on what we do with what God gives us.
Mhm.
And if it means not going after numbers and we go from this down to this, smaller might be better.
Right. And so, and one of the things mentioned was on camp, the expectations with campership and all that. And I know we don't have a lot of time, but I was on the phone with Booth the other day. The numbers came in for R2, right? The reporting where areas say we're going to commit to these numbers. Well, Lost Canyon and Woodleaf, if you look at divisional camping, we're at 78%. Last year we were at 82%, and last year was considered somewhat
And
of a
why is
crisis
Arcadia High School sold out?
because they're going to
They're
Malibu.
going to Malibu.
Right.
So Magic Malibu is, so yeah, they can write the check
Right.
and they're going to Malibu, and that's it. And so that's going to become less and less relevant. The fact of the matter is, you can't promote camp every week without a hamburger or a Coke or going and playing some ultimate frisbee. Like, those things lead to camp. Right now, we're just going in and putting out on Instagram like, hey,
Yes.
we're going to camp. We're here to sign up, and then we wonder why. Well,
I did some asking around about this, and historically, we take a hit on camp, and then we spend the fall
Financial.
trying to financial hit on camp, because we'll figure out the money coming to camp. We have a looming deficit policy that's gonna take us all in to reduce pay pretty quick after camp. It goes into effect September. And so,
Sticks the way.
as a staff member, I'm going, okay, I can't take a hit on camp this year. I'm being more conservative with my R2. That is Woodley, that is all of the Southwest
Yeah.
Division. And so, as a person, you're like, okay, I don't have the luxury of spending the fall trying to dig back out of camp. I'm gonna have to conserve my numbers. And I think that's a huge play in why camp numbers in R2 dropped like they did.
that's a part of it. The biggest play of why camp numbers are drawing down, Jake, you said this about solving the thing. It's that I get one Instagram about camp from Malibu, I get 10 on the sports camp. You're going to be the next Peyton Manning to go to quarterback camp. And then you got to be there. And summer weights and the plays and the softball, all of those things are consuming kids' time, energy, effort, money. And that's what's drawing down. I think that's a bigger thing than what we're doing. We're going, hey, best week of your life, it's applying, and it's the relationships that kids go, I don't want to go to some football camp and have some guy yell at me, and, I just want to go someplace where I'm loved. There's no competition. My parents aren't there. Kids' sports have two elements. It's competition. Little Jimmy, you're the best. And then everybody goes after little Jimmy. And then the second is the parents are at everything. They're at practices. They go to play practices,
So that has to do with United Camp in which way?
There are no competition. I mean, you can win a chance to go up on stage, but there is no ranking when you come out of camp. Like, you don't come home and go, I was third. You just go to camp and have a great time. And unless you're my kids, there's no parents involved. So those two elements of no parents and there's not a competition. I don't have to get into the right college or get the right grades. I'm just going to go for a week. We're going to hang and fart and be fun and hang out and goose on chicks. And like, that's a dreamland for a high school kid these days. Because mom's like, you got to go serve. We got to go to Salvation Army every Saturday. And because the college is going to look at that. The more we're in the soup kitchen, the better you're going to get into Harvard. It's those things. Those are societal things that we're not selling. This is the best week of your life to do nothing but be in a relationship and have fun.
And I think, Rob, I agree with you. In some regard, can I ask this? I looked at the pages 5 and 6 of this deal, the demographics, and I had the question: how many is a rich white people? That they interviewed.
Right.
But it doesn't address. I am asking.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
what you just said is a rich white person perspective.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
And
I do.
I got the map in
That's
my
what I do.
office. We can pull it up here, and I'll tell you where Young Life exists is where there's money.
Yeah. Well,
And
here's
so-
what I can tell you on that
It's
is,
very important that we acknowledge the bias in that.
Yeah.
That's not a shame on you, just being you, and that's great.
yeah,
I'm just saying, a lot of this feedback, I don't know how to measure it.
Yeah.
I don't, because like, that's good input, but, it's like, sweet, the neighborhood project, that's awesome. But
That's kind of an eye opener for me. So like being probably the oldest one in the room. Back in the day, remember the Young Life started in 43, right?
41, yeah.
40, and so, but back in the day, our folks never went to the games. You know, the parents, it was very unusual.
Yeah.
And then today, you know, like, our youngest daughter is Shelley. She's 35 years old. Nothing she likes better than to bring her friends over Friday night for pool night. You know, she wants to hang out with us.
Yeah.
And what a change in a few years.
Just to address that really quick, in Arcadia, there is a 32% Hispanic population in Arcadia High School. Where are those kids? You go watch a baseball and soccer team, which Hispanics play. There's one kid, if you're lucky, on those teams. The rest of them are white. Those kids don't play soccer or baseball? No, they do. They play at Perry Park on the other side of Thomas behind Costco in Hispanic leagues. They go to family birthday parties. Jake never got invited to one Hispanic kid's birthday party in the class of 16 his kindergarten year, because Hispanics don't invite the whole class to go and do the ice cream party. They have family parties, and that's what they do. So there's a cultural thing that comes into play there of what are they doing. We can outreach to them. You know, the best person that's ever done is probably Kathy Mason and Jorge and Rick when we were reaching Coronado the way we were, and it's never gone to Arcadia. So our Arcadia Club has some of that in it, but we're not doing that, and it's because we're not focused on what are they doing, and they're doing family stuff. They're doing their own activities. Why aren't we out there doing some contact work at those? Why don't we have, you know, a Hispanic leader after Jorge left in Arcadia? Like, it's, to your point, Ryan, that is 100% accurate. My perspective is rich white kid, young life, our wildlife. That's what we see, because we didn't never have any Hispanics. We had 70% of the school. The other 30% didn't even exist in wildlife.
Right. So one of the, I mean, if we're honest, we talked about being every kid and hashtag every kid, all that kind of thing. The reality is Young Life has been a very suburban ministry for the vast majority of time until recently. In the neighborhood initiative, going into poor communities, all that, that is a focal point here. And you're right, in existing areas, we need to be able to raise that up, focus on it. I mean, we've talked about that a million times in Arcadia about if we had a Hispanic leader, what a difference that could make just even in Arcadia, or a couple. But with this, for the focus of this, can I just make a suggestion? Is we have these main areas that we feel that are important. Can I put this together in some kind of organizational format and get this back out to you? Kelsey and I can talk about it. We can process it, get it out to you, get some feedback. Because some of the work that we're going to do is going to have to be via email and some correspondence that way before we meet again.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes. I really, really, really beg you to give me something to do between now and next week. Don't let us leave here with, you're going to go back and put your thoughts together, and then they might not be ours. Like, what do you want us to do between now and next Tuesday?
Well, my thought is this was going to be out to you like later today or tomorrow. And the idea would be that we're having conversations with our sphere of influence regarding, and you guys processing and putting your thoughts back on. I'd love to have you, we didn't really answer the question.
Yeah.
Do we want to have a survey type form that you can use at least as a reference to be able to talk with people about these areas and ask some pointed questions versus just, what do you think about this, or, you know, or whatever your engagement level looks like? Did you have a thought on that?
No. I think it's great to go out and get more insight into what do you think, but I think it's really important for us to, we can spend a lot of time defining all the problems, all the challenges. I think the more that we say, okay, so what am I going to do about it? And I might not have the answer. I could spend a lot of time researching this, putting together the whole book of all the things going on in the world and the culture and society. But really, in my experience, what it comes down to more is, okay, so what small step am I going to take? Like, what am I going to do about it? And I think that's what you've got to go ask people, is instead of just continue to tell me what the problem is, that's great, thank you.
Yeah.
I know there's a problem. We are aware. What's the first step? Like,
So-
what do you do about it?
Can I ask you, does what you just say work within what I was suggesting? Because that's what I was saying
Yeah,
is
what do
don't
you
go
do
out and say,
about
what do you
this,
think
this,
about all
this?
this?
Yeah.
But does it work? Because I keep thinking, like, for you guys, we have to give something and have something that's available to go and say, we're being very intentional about this if it's
Yeah.
a
So
small
there's 7 of us in this room, and there's 7 of these key words. Why don't we take one each
Yeah, that's, I
and
mean,
come back and ask some people, get some feedback, and come back with solutions, not problems.
The feedback we're trying to gather is, do you have ideas for solutions?
Yes.
We've identified the
How would
problems
you-
already.
So if I
What
went
would you
first
do
and I
about
got to pick on the playground, I would pick
TLS.
I would pick the taking leaders seriously, fuel, the what and the why, and come back with some like, okay, here's some
Yeah.
stuff that I've thought through, I've looked at, talked to some people, and here's some real solutions to that.
Okay, I think that that's fantastic, if that's what you,
And you can summarize and send that out. That'll help us all out. We got it already down on paper, but,
Yeah.
I'd like training. Kind of in the middle of that right
all
now.
right.
I don't have to have taking leaders seriously.
No,
Just
Robert, we mentioned that at the very 5 minutes of the meeting. You were already
not
on
on
that.
expectations, then it's gonna get real nasty.
All right, number 3 was, I'm still,
Consistency.
So are you thinking, Robert, like you'd give Dayton a call and go, Dayton, what could Young Life do to make your life easier?
I'm gonna
as a college
spend my
student?
entire time with them tomorrow night at dinner and go, guys, this is the end of the year. We're going to Oregano's. What do you think? Like,
Yeah.
why do you
Like,
want to
get-
be a leader?
You're getting a sophomore in college's perspective on,
They're the
That's-
greatest test group ever.
right, very helpful. Guys,
7
sophomore
of them.
guys.
6 will show up, but yeah.
okay, so consistency was who?
Consistency and staff and training went together.
They were separate
Now,
because you can have training, but is it consistent?
This is why I'm confused about this list, because I feel like we went
I
from
did that
5 to
purpose.
6 to 7.
I did the list just so we-
I was gonna say what you wrote here is different now.
It should be fuel, consistency. Well, what I did was these words, this list right here, these are the key words that came out of that list. So
That
Sorry.
next one's training.
You have consistency and training as 2 separate things.
yes,
That's,
consistent because you could, Ashley, you use the logo the right way. And consistency, I mean,
Stretch that thing out,
yeah.
widen it up.
Jake, you're number 8, so we got to figure that out.
He just said.
Actually-
We didn't hear you.
Jake, you're muted, Jake. Oh,
Jake, here's the way this works. I didn't draw this. Kelsey can witness this. All of these things came down, but the umbrella that ties them all together is relationships. And because of what you said, I think you should take relationships. And how do we further that? I mean, that's total umbrella in Young Life, but there's 8 of us. There's 8 things.
He's talking again. We can't hear you.
Did you?
You're not muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so you're saying take the relationships piece and then have conversations kind of around the region is kind of within my network and then bring back some thoughts. Is that what you're saying?
So what do we do about it? Like, how do we build better relationships? I guess might be the question. Like,
Yeah.
how do we do relationships better in Young Life?
Okay. And you're talking specifically kid relationships? Are you talking adult relationships? Are you talking leader relationships, committee, donor? Because that's part of the problem is this relationship saturation, right? Which is why you need more people. But is that kind of, are you talking kid specific contact work or are you talking all relationships?
I would start with leaders, and then I would go to staff, and you can get to it, and then I would go to.
But what relationships should he be asking about? How do we do relationships better? How do we do donor relationships better? How do we do leader relationships better?
I think the problem is that the question is how do we better our relationships? So you have to start with, well, what's the problem with them? And that's social media. We don't,
I don't think Young Life staff have a problem making I mean, I literally have 8 to 9 meetings a week, if not more sometimes, and so we know how to go be with people, but I only can do so much of that. And so how are you asking specifically how are leaders going after kids in relationships or?
What you said at the beginning of what you went through, you started with
Yeah.
we have a program club, we have program camp, we have program campaigners, we have program. I'm so programmed, I don't have time for relationships. Like how the
Yeah.
solution is, how can you take time out of that program? Instead of texting out 7 people, it might be 7 phone calls. It takes more time, but you actually catch up with somebody. There's voice inflection, all that. So I don't have the answers, but
Okay.
I
So
think
you're saying asking about kid relationships,
Yeah.
contact work.
how do we prioritize that?
Hmm.
Like, I mean, and I like Eric's idea of thinking crazy. Like, and I'm not suggesting this, but sell Lost Canyon, so we're not camp driven.
So maybe the question is, how do we put building relationships
Yeah,
with
how do
kids
we-
back
are
at
we
the center
looking-
of what we're doing?
How do we, in the hierarchy,
Yeah,
get it back
why
at
does
the
it have to
top?
be right, yeah.
I'm coming back to the heart. It can be.
Well, because like
not
Robert's a
about
leader
you.
in my area. All I ask him to do is hang out with guys. I don't, and we have a semi-optional once a month meeting that you've been to a couple months, which is, but I don't care. He's
Right.
getting with his guys tomorrow night, and we're prioritize the right things.
Okay. Yep, that sounds good. I'll talk about that. Look into that.
Thanks, Jake.
Don't forget,
What's your next one, Robert?
Consistency training. Jana's taking training. Who's taking consistency? Because what's left on the playground for your team is,
For consistency, are we
Sustainable.
talking about turnover, like the staff consistency?
well, the comment that Jana made was staff consistency and training. So training is one thing, consistency is the question underneath that Ryan hit on, and that's the average term of a staff person in Arizona. So how long are people staff people? Did that staff person just go to Young Life for 1 year in college and then they became on staff, or do they start in wildlife at 6th grade? Like, I think those are the questions you have to ask, and some of the solutions. What is their ideal? Do you have to have gone to Young Life to be on Young Life staff?
Hmm.
And the
Is that,
answer
is that where you were going?
What?
Is that where you were going with that?
Yeah, and we were just kind of a little sidebar. We were talking about it's almost under a whole staff of like recruitment, onboarding, training, and sustainability. And so just as I'm getting staff on the phone asking, like, how was your onboarding experience?
Yeah.
How did you come into Young? It was,
Well,
and,
it could
and
be
just
something
kind of
you could-
maybe, and then what pieces
It'd be
maybe
good.
you're missing, and what would you do about it?
Well, is
Do we
that
have a
Kelsey?
start right, stay right program? Do we, start right, stay right? A lot of times, if I ask area directors, like, think back, what was your first thing? I decided on staff, I told my parents, and then I got on a bus and went to camp with 7 kids I never met, and I had to start a club that summer, and I got, Desert Mountain started. I mean, that's how we do it. Like, no swim lessons, just you'll find your way to the side of the pool.
Yeah.
Like, that's not start right, stay right. Right?
So Kelsey, we'll take that one.
I'll take it.
Love it.
I gotta imagine the training department out of Colorado Springs has some data on this.
I'll just
sure
go
don't
straight to
hope
HR.
so.
I've asked them for different data in the past, so I can go to them
Okay.
and ask about.
So am I still doing training?
Yes, you're doing training, Jana, consistency, Kelsey.
I'm gonna figure out more of why are people leaving.
Good.
It may come down to training, but yours is gonna be
How's your
more, how do
experience
you,
coming in?
yeah, how well have you been set up to succeed? Which is a different question than why didn't
Yeah.
people stay?
Something that I would throw into that too as a possibility is, Jake, how many more years do you have as an area director? How many does Sean McGeever have? How many? And if we don't ever ask people that, then we're going to get surprised by, I heard Sean's leaving. I heard Jake's doing something different. If Jake said, look, I want to focus on 2 more years, then we know we have a 2-year time to build the bench in Tucson, and that's our timeline. And also, what do you want to do from there, Jake? Is it stay in the ministry? Is it move sideways, move up, move out? Like, that would be a big solution that we need to because I just know, just from my little tiny world, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
I think the other
Ashley,
piece,
when's the last time somebody asked you how long you're going to be in?
I was
I was gonna say.
asked yesterday.
Where are you?
Yeah, I get asked all the time. Yeah. What about you, Ashley?
Well, I feel like in our meeting with you on whatever day that was, you were like.
Oh, I asked
you
them
weren't
last
really
week.
asking, but you were kind of asking, like, you're in this, right?
Part of the reset, I think, is part of the hard reset is to ask that question and say, if it's 3 years, then put together a 3-year plan, 36 months, and weeks turn into months and months turn into years, and they go fast. So
Yeah, they do.
what are you gonna do in 3 years? Because if we get that kind of momentum behind people planning out
Really
the next 3 years,
I think it's really smart, only because this, again, I'll reiterate, this plan is very staff centric. It transitioning to, then will translate to leaders. but it's very staff. The neighborhood model, we need a staff person in that the profile. You guys worked on that, but I think that it would be helpful since I've been here. I mean, these are names I think of Will's guy. Will left, Sam's left, AJ's left, Colin.
Yeah. Well,
And then a bunch of like staff associate type people, and I think it'd be great to interview those people and go, "Why'd you leave?"
Well, but there's an important,
There
the
you go.
reasons that people leave aren't necessarily the reasons that other people stay. It's an important difference in the question that you ask.
That's exactly right.
And so exit interviews are I just reading an article about this weekend actually, so thank you. Nice. But it's
I gotta go, guys. Sorry,
Okay.
I got a meeting.
Thanks.
We'll see ya.
and there is healthy turnover too, right?
Yeah,
There's
sure.
the thing is- So I think it's important to think about what our retention rates are and those kinds of things. But I think the question of like, why are you staying? Like,
Did
what,
you record this on
you
Zoom?
know,
I know.
Why are you staying? That's probably
Sorry.
a
why are
question
you
in my
staying,
meeting.
or like
Well-
what would continue to make you stay?
Well, and especially the staff associates too.
Yeah. What would it take for you?
So you're right,
Yeah,
you're-
what is your plan? Where do you see yourself after you finish? And